Now, Battleguard Echoes is a new spell that has just come out in Legacy of Destruction, and it seemed to me like it had a ton of potential. Now, initially, I had thought this would be a really nice inclusion in the Yugioh Phantom Incarnate deck because it can search your shield. But as it turns out, that deck is super consistent in getting to that main play already, and so it didn't really do much for me. It was a lot of redundancy, almost to the point of making the deck worse. But I did want to find a way to use this card, and so I figured, why not try a Battleguard deck? Surely it must do something because it's got all this new support in the last few years. Clearly it has something to do. So it turns out the only good card, the Battleguard archetype, is Cadet because it can search the Feast of the Wild level 5, which facilitates rank 5 plays, or I guess link plays, but rank 5 plays because so many other decks make link plays better. So while this did start with Cadet, both Lava and Swamp, and the King in there, these do nothing. This doesn't do much to make them not do nothing. And the King is cool, but it's not searchable by anything playable really. And while the promotion is technically searchable off of Thrust, which can just turn your Cadet into the King from your deck, if you're using a Thrust to search this to make this, you are making a bad decision because there are so many better things you can search off of that Thrust instead. So what we have here is a rank 5 deck that is kind of circled around that Feast of the Wild level 5. We're trying to just spam out as many level 5s as we can to get access to some cool rank 5 monsters. So we'll give you a brief overview of what I got in here, and then I'll show you kind of what it is I'm looking to do with the deck in a second. I would say that the Joker's Knight is one of the best cards in the deck. It can recycle itself turn after turn. It makes you free normal summon of Hayate the Earthstar live. So as long as you can keep that Jack's Knight in the graveyard, you can just shuffle it back into the deck, put the Joker's Knight back in your hand, and you have a free body ready to go every single turn. This thing is MVP here as far as I'm concerned. The Cadets are just in here to search the Feast of the Wild. It does it on normal or special, so we do have the 1-for-1 in here for that special summon. And because it's a level 1, it can let you go into Relinquished Anima, which is a decent card. And I'll mention now that it is a going second deck through and through. It does not do much of anything good going first, because so many of your effects are going to be based around your opponent already having a board. The C101 in particular, which is kind of like a main focal point, even though it's a little bit outdated. And so as you can see, I chose not to play the IP. Instead, I chose to play the Anima. You would just Cadet away into the Anima and then into the SP for that Banish. Or if you didn't have access to that, you would just make the SP off of that double bounce effect. Amazoness War Chieftain, I believe, is the only level 5 Earth Warrior that can special summon itself from the hand for free. It's got that Cyber Dragon effect. The second half of the effect we're not worried about. I suppose if you wanted to play a more fusion-based version of the build with the Sky Warriors, with the fusion monsters, you could do something like that. I just found that it wasn't very good, and you need to be able to attack, and this takes that attack away. For the Sky Warriors that we are going to play, it's 2 of the Tenma, 1 of the Hayate. The Hayate gets the normal summon with no tributes if you control a level 5 light monster, which is these guys. And the Tenma does the same thing if you control level 5 Earth Warrior, which is going to be this lady here. Then we got Triple Overlay Booster. It's a free body. If you control a monster with 2,000 attack, it just special summons itself from the hand from defense mode. So opening this plus Joker's Knight means you can immediately get into a rank 5 play. So that's been nice. For hand traps, we got Triple Ash Blossom, Double Nibiru, and then Lava Golem's not a hand trap, but I guess it kind of fits in the same concept. Like I said, it's a going second deck. We need to try to interfere somewhat. I was going 3 on the Nibiru, but you're just going to see it a lot. And if you don't open it, it kind of becomes not very good after that. Lava Golem in this deck is sick. So you're going to, take away 2 and give it to him, and then you can make the Volcasaurus to burn him for 3k by killing your own Lava Golem. And then you can overlay it with the Gaia Dragon and still get that attack, even though the Volcasaurus can't attack itself. You just put Gaia on top and swing for another 2,600. So assuming you can clear out the board enough to get a clear shot, you're doing 5,600 damage there just between the Lava Golem and the Volcasaurus. Feast of the Wild lets you summon 2 level 5 monsters from hand or graveyard, so usually what we're trying to do is use the Battleguard Echoes to either search the thing we need, so the War Chieftain for this free summon, or just dump an Earth Warrior that we don't need, which can be the Chief or the Earth Star. We just want him in the graveyard because on Feast of the Wild we'll be able to just summon it back out. In the case of Joker's Knight, it automatically sets you up for the Feast of the Wild a little bit because it sends that Jack's Knight from the deck to the graveyard to summon itself. Then you can summon it back, overlay, detach those materials, put them both back in the graveyard, and then it recycles. So excellent synergy there. The Thrust, because like I said, we're going second, we need to hopefully rely on them using some type of an effect so we can search off some of our power cards. We'll skip over the Echoes because we kind of talked about it a lot. The 1 Thrust, the 1 Instant Fusion for the 1 Raijin, it's a level 5, it's a Book of Moon. the 1/1 for 1 for the cadet, the Rhoda also for the cadet, and then triple prosperity. Now prosperity is a little bit iffy to me in this deck because you use a good chunk of the extra deck. I suppose if you think you got it all locked in, you know how that play is going to go after they pass turn to you, it's a lot easier to make the decisions, but as soon as you start grinding a little bit, you're going to start missing those extra deck monsters a lot, especially because the C101 line is a fairly large portion of the extra deck, and you're going to burn through it on your first turn most likely. And then the double imperm, also searchable with thrust, also just a good hand trap. Now in the extra deck, we got the 1 Raijin for the instant fusion. We got the 1 access code, it's pretty easy to make. The 1 SP, the 1 Anima, we already kind of talked about that. Volcasaurus as well. Vimana is awesome. So just generic 2 level 5s. When it's on the board, it has an effect to be able to take a Xyz monster out of the graveyard, attach it to itself, and then raise a monster on the field by half that monster's attack that it attached to itself. So it can be itself, it'll usually pump itself up above 1,000. In the case of C101, it can pump it up to like above 4,000 sometimes, depending on what else you've made in the game. But it also has a detach effect. So if your opponent tries to activate a monster effect, it can detach too and negate the activation. So super good there. It also replenishes itself. So as long as you have Xyz monsters in the graveyard, which the C101 does for you really well, you can just keep looping that effect turn after turn because it can quick effect attach material. So as long as you do it once on your turn, once on your opponent's turn, you always will have that negate available. So really nice there. Doom Chimera could probably go. I just wanted to play around with it. It just gains 1,000 attack for every material you have. I've gotten it up to 5,000 before. It's not the easiest thing, and you're kind of going all in on that point. I suppose it enables the OTK if you can get it above, probably if you can get it above 4,000 and attack everything they have, it'll get you pretty close. If you can get it to 5,000 and attack everything they have, it can pretty much get you there depending on what they have, obviously. We've got the Valiant Shark Lancer, so as long as you control a water Xyz monster outside of itself, its effect becomes a quick effect, and it can just detach pop a monster. And that detach can be from itself or something else. So if you wanted to set up that graveyard for Vimana, you could detach one of the materials you don't need off of the 101, C101 that is. Get it in the graveyard, Vimana has a target, you get that pop, it's really cool. Also, if an Xyz water monster you control other than itself gets destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can take a spell from your deck and put it on top of your deck. So it lets you stack your deck for your next turn, meaning if you left the C101 out with the Shark Lancer and they kill the C101, assuming the 101 is in the graveyard, regular 101, the C101 will put itself back on the field, still be able to steal a special summon monster when it comes back to your turn. The Shark Lancer will be able to use its effect to stack your deck. So either it's going to be one of these two to get to Cadet, or you're just going to go straight for Feast of the Wild level 5 to fuel your next play. Because one of the biggest issues that I've been running into with this deck is getting super bricky hands where I've got a lot of monsters where I can kind of put some stuff on board, but you just don't have that one power spell, that one power play. And this kind of fixes that a little bit. For the C101 line, basically these all overlay and detach to activate effects to overlay and, put certain things attached to them, resulting in the C101 being on the board with the 101 being attached to it. That's only relevant because its effect to recur itself to the board requires 101 to be in the graveyard, so if it goes to the graveyard with 101 attached, it'll just special summon itself back out in the end phase and give you life points equal to its attack, so 2,800. The C101 can steal a special summon monster and attach it to itself as material, so even if it comes back to the board empty, you can just steal one of your opponent's monsters. There you go, you're all set up. We talked about the Gaia. I'm pretty much only using this on top of Volcasaurus to get the burn plus the attack. And then we got the 1 Typhon. It's just a nice plan B, as well as the Zeus, also a good plan B. Or if you didn't have your Gaia, or if something else happened, they negate something, whatever, you just Zeus on top. Hopefully that's enough to reset you and put you back in a position to win. Now let's take a look at what this deck does. So basically what I'm looking for is 2 level 5s that I can have hit the board right off the bat, and then a Feast of the Wild to recycle them after I make my initial play. So we need Feast of the Wild or Cadet, or a way to summon the Cadet, whether it be 1-for-1 or Rhoda. And then Joker's Knight and War Chief are going to be the best ones. You could make this an overlay booster instead. You can't do it the other way around because this doesn't have 2,000 attack. And if this wasn't Cadet, or you didn't need the normal summon for Cadet, you could just have one of these be the corresponding Star Warrior card that gets the normal summon with no tribute based on the attribute of the other monster in hand. So we'll start this off by making our first play, the C101 line. We'll go with Warrior Chief on board, then we'll go Joker's Knight, sending our Jack's Knight. So we got 2 5s. We'll go into our Nash Knight. Nash Knight's effect will let it detach to and then attach 101 to itself as material. We're then going to overlay on top of that with the CXC's Nash Knight, and then the CXC's Nash Knight can use its effect to detach 1 in order to overlay C101 on top of itself. So now if we're going second, you have that steal effect here. You also have another steal effect on the Nash Knight, so on that first summon you would get a steal, play up to your C101 and get another steal, so that's 2 monsters gone. We would then go with the Feast of the Wild level 5 and we'll summon 2. So now ideally we want to end with both of these guys being in the graveyard so that the Joker's Knight can recycle itself and the Jack's Knight goes back to the deck. Because we're not playing it out, we'll just put them both on board. And then what you summon here will depend on first or second. Unfortunately, you kind of always have to make this to set up a lot of your other extra deck effects. But if we're going second, I would recommend the Valiant Shark Lancer unless there's a particular card you're worried about. Then I would go Vimana, or if you think you have game after getting your 2 steals, you would go Volcasaurus to burn the other and kill it, and then use the guy to lay it over the top and attack, because at that point you'd have 28 plus 26 plus whatever you burn for. So if it's 3,000, that's game. But for now we're gonna go with Valiant Shark Lancer because I think it's just the best general play. So now this is a quick effect pop. Say you could do the quick effect pop. So now you've been able to remove 3. You've got a direct line for 5,300 straight to the face there. And right here on that quick effect pop, I would likely have not used both of these. I would have picked one or the other, detached the one that I picked so that they're both in the graveyard, because then during the end phase, they will recycle themselves. But outside of that, it takes just a little bit of playing around with the deck just to kind of figure out the different kind of cool plays you can do. It's definitely less powerful than something meta or even something rogue. It's probably a lot more just a for fun deck, but I could see you taking it to locals and winning a game or 2 and pissing some people off. So play around with it, let me know what you think. If there's any text that I'm missing out on, let me know down below. I'd like to hear about it. I'm fascinated by this rank 5 toolbox situation. Now, happy deck building. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Goodbye.